but that's playing the game.
But they're not playing.
Moving
I
on.
meant the guys who purchase it, and I just want
Moving on to the next
Okay,
topic.
fine.
Moving on to the next topic because we can't spend the whole half hour on just
Are
this.
you sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
Cool.
We have other things that we need to cover on this panel discussion. So out from Ubisoft, because that was the second thing that you listed way ago at the beginning of this video. So Ubisoft is basically coming out and saying we can't be as creative as you would like us to be because you haven't bought another console yet.
He basically says the reason for the lack of creativity and the sequel bombing that we've gotten through the years is because of the lack of next-gen content. Or the next-gen technology, sorry.
To which I say,
What?
could you please remove whatever you shoved up your rear end?
You know, I agree with you guys, but the unfortunate thing is that he has actual statistics to back him up on that.
Oh.
Because if you look at the next gen, if you look at like the releases of the PS3, the Xbox, and all
Well,
that.
when we have quantum computing, maybe it'll be cooler, because silicon can only go so far. We're hitting the limits in the next few years. Maybe this is why we've slowed down with next-gen processing. Maybe you should endorse quantum computing.
That's not the creativity we're talking about. The creativity we're
Oh.
talking about is new IPs, new stories,
Oh, okay.
different ideas to think about game mechanics.
But if he's
which
blaming,
you can do
but I'm
very
saying if
well
he's
even
blaming
in
the
PS2
console.
era.
Yeah, but I'm saying if
Yeah,
he's
which
blaming
you
the consoles.
no, but the scary thing is, you could have, and it's been proven actually with greater statistics, you can have incredibly involving and differing storylines and unique IPs with consoles as simple as the SNES.
I love the SNES.
Yes.
I also love
So
the Sega Saturn.
you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot on this one. Because,
Sega.
okay, yes, having peripherals that allow for motion control and everything, allow for a new way of playing, they allow for a level of creativity and everything. But let's...
3D.
3D adds nothing. I'm just gonna say that.
It really doesn't. Okay, the following game...
You have to have
no,
a
it's
place
a cool
for it.
thing. No, but the thing is, it's a cool idea. But a driving game on a tablet is essentially just a 2D falling game, where you're just steering. And you can do it 2D. It's just a nice gimmick to have, the 3D while you're falling.
I just thought of physics. Every time you take a step, you're actually falling. But anyway.
Actually, yes, you are falling and trusting yourself to catch yourself before gravity takes you past the point of no return. That's an incredibly stupid thing to say.
It is, simply because if you look at the indie market, it is the most creative thing you've ever seen, and it's working. Psychonauts!
Darksiders 2, Psychonauts, I win!
Darksiders 2 wasn't innovative, it was just a new...
No, that was a very innovative storyline, because they took all of Christian mythology and everything, flipped it on its head, and gave you a completely different lore, and storyline and
that.
Spawn did that first,
Oh.
not to this degree.
Xenosaga
It did that to an even greater degree.
It did to a greater degree, but this was a palatable amount.
Xenosaga imagined the future of Christianity and how, like, if Earth gets, like, taken over by aliens, what do? You hack off Israel and make it into a satellite and slowly work your way back.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but like...
All your holy places got cut off. Even, I think Mecca is also its own little floating thing.
The various iterations of the Legend of Zelda game, it's the same game over and over again, but the storylines are different.
It's actually the same game since Ocarina. It was different before that.
Right.
In fact, the most innovative one was technically the first one, because you could technically do that whole game without the sword.
Yeah.
Whereas you couldn't do that with the rest of them.
Why couldn't games just be like Katamari, where you just roll around and all its DLCs are free? And nothing matters, everything gets rolled up.
But that's the thing. The fact that we have more than 2 AAA titles proves that you can have unique IPs and successful unique IPs.
Or actually, it's not just successful, you gotta really give them a chance. If Kingdoms of Amalur was given more of a chance and they didn't screw up on the business end so much, this game could be amazing.
Yeah.
Because it starts off as innovation with the first one, where it's just that's what happened with Mass Effect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems with that game, but that game is still amazing. And then you got Mass Effect 2, which was just a huge bombshell that year.
Mass Effect 2?
Gears of War, when that game came out and they introduced cover mechanics, refined cover mechanics, they were the first game to do it. But when they introduced a refined cover mechanic-based shooting game, everyone thought, alright, it's a cool gimmick. But then you started playing the game, The characters were interesting. It was not a unique storyline, but a very interesting way of presenting the storyline.
A good game is not a unique story. A good game is a well-done story.
Exactly, and
that's immersive. That you can actually get lost.
And Gears of War has
it's
that
actually
in
just
spades.
engaging.
Yeah.
Gears of War has that in spades. In spades, in the first game, it's not just about killing the boss man. Everyone in your squad has their own set goals, their own set personality and everything, and the whole sub-story with Dominic trying to find his wife and everything, it actually moves you at parts. In the second game, when he finds her, is an incredibly moving moment. And it's horrifying in some ways. You walk away from that feeling bad.
That's the thing about immersion. When you can create a whole world in the game and you can actually sympathize and feel for these characters. I know that like the term is paracosm when you have a made up world. That like Lord of the Rings is its own paracosm, right?
Right.
And you can essentially when you delve into the Lord of the Rings lore, when you watch the Hobbits, you feel for them. You feel like you're traversing with them.
Well,
that's engaging. That's the engagement that we're looking for.
It's
in
not
video
even
games.
just that. It actually goes to a more broader spectrum, and that's you want to be in the world.
Yes.
You want the world
That's
to be
the
so
immersion.
good. You feel like it's real, and you want to be there because it feels so real.
And the funny thing is, from the earliest games up until now, in every console generation, you've always had games like that, and you've had them come from unique IPs, and you've had them come from repetitive IPs.
It's also the sign of a good
World of
series.
World of Warcraft has.
Avatar, the TV series, actually does this very well. They've got the cultures made so that the world is divided amongst its geography, and it's immersive even when you're watching it. And I'm talking about the Avatar, the TV series, the cartoon, by the way. Even the movie, by the way, is also in some ways.
It's a bad film, but I see what it is.
No, the other Avatar, the blue.
No, that was Ferngully in space. Okay, that is.
Actually,
looks
that was
nice.
Pocahontas in space.
It was Pocahontas and Ferngully in space.
And Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I actually more or less mean is things like World of Warcraft, where it's an MMO. It's your typical MMO. It's the behemoth of MMOs, but it's an MMO. But I look at that world and I look at the way it's done. I look at the art's done. I'm like, oh, even if the gameplay is, because gameplay even gameplay in MMOs are crap, essentially. I still want to be in the world of Azeroth.
Yeah, right. Well, it's the same thing that you have with a lot of long-running movie franchises and everything, and characters like James Bond or Vin Diesel from the Fast and the Furious movies, or even
those are different reasons.
No. You don't love it because
they're paracosms. They imitate our world, but they're not.
No. That's not it.
You want to live vicariously through those characters in the same way, because James Bond isn't a very robust character. What does he do? He sleeps with women, he kills people, and he gets away with it. And that's it.
And he goes
it's the same thing with Indiana Jones.
It's the same thing with Indiana Jones. It's the same thing with a whole bunch of various heroes and everything.
Indiana Jones is what every archaeologist wishes they were, and
It's what
anthropologists
every man
aspiring.
wishes he was.
But the thing is, it's not a very robust character.
No, they're not overly complicated. They're not overly complicated stories, but in fact, they're very simple.
And it's the same thing with video gaming, MMOs especially, first-person shooters, you name it. The gameplay and everything may feel the same time and time again.
The gameplay helps.
But what a unique IP allows for is a more engaging and immersive storyline, characters, etc., so on and so forth.
It offers something different.
Which you have in spades in every console generation. You don't need a new console generation to spark more creativity. All you need a new console generation for is to add more money to your money castle.
And more graphics, essentially, because that's the only thing I can really see them going for is a graphic boost.
The amount that I cared about
Make the trees look like trees.
the four squad members in Gears of War is easily the same amount that I cared about the 4 squad members that I played as in Republic Commando from the original Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is, they're both first-person shooters. One's cover-based, one's got tactical maneuvering. But you know what? I cared about these characters to the same degree, and it didn't matter what console generation they were in.
But if you start even going to an older console game and imagine like this random pop-up that says you need to pay $10 to advance.
No, we're past that. We can't go back to that.
We can?
No, we can't go back to that. We need to keep moving forward because then he's gonna get sidetracked and we're just an
That's
hour
still
on
a
it.
terrible idea.
Okay. So what's the next? What is it about EB?
Well-
Sorry, not EA. That's.
No, this is Ubisoft. We're on.
Ubisoft.
We're on Ubisoft.
Okay. What's so bad about Ubisoft?
Ubisoft believes that the only reason that we do not have more new IPs and that this generation is nothing but sequels, and you can take a look at the list of games on Wiki to see that almost 90% of the games released are all sequels or rehashes or remakes.
In this console generation?
Yeah, and he says the only reason why we don't have new IPs is because we don't have a new generation of consoles.
But
We use
no,
PC
that's because
games.
of the business model that gaming works off of.
But we do port PC games over to consoles, and it
That's-
seems like the PC market is still advancing. And it's
But the PC market is still like new graphics cards, new things.
Yeah.
But here's the thing,
it's a
but
different marketplace.
it's not really a dying market, but it's a lesser market than what it was.
I guess.
Most definitely.
It's not
It's a
as
heavily
big.
reduced market.
It is a heavily reduced market, but it's still there.
It's still there, yeah.
Yeah.
It still holds its own amount of sway.
But the majority of gaming is console gaming, and it's a
Currently.
little bit more streamlined, I guess is what you'd call it.
It's simpler for people to get into.
But
and
there's such a lack of new IPs. I mean, there are so many games in threes or a remake that are happening just within the next 4 months that it's ridiculous. If I had the wiki page open, I could list it all, and I'd be here for the next hour.
I guess it's because like I try all the weirder games that you guys are kind of like, what is this? What is this game? Why does this exist? It's like so far I've gotten Journey, and I've gotten like
I've played Journey.
Yeah, I've gotten.
Journey is a very good game.
It's a very good game. I downloaded it because somebody told me that it was what was it? They said it's like your Buddhism textbook, except without all the words, and you have to think about it while you're playing.
That game is all emotion. That's a different topic, but that game
Yeah.
is all emotion, and it's nothing but one gameplay mechanic, and that's movement.
Well, no, but here's the thing. When
It's also sublime. It uses beautiful scenery to
Yeah.
capture you, and how infant.
But here's the thing, though. Our topic is that there's
Yeah.
not enough games like Journey, or I'm not talking about
No,
artsy
like,
games, just new games.
New game
are.
IPs. No, you want to
There
know
are
why?
not.
No, you want to know why there are not? When was the last time?
This is really
you both read a lot, all right?
Yeah.
Comics, novels, whatever it is. You've both come to the point in a series where you know that the books are going to end, but you just want more.
No, not the Holy Trinity. Are you referring to the Holy Trinity of One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach?
Manga's a very good example of this.
That is the
But-
Holy Trinity. If it ends, Beelzebub is a new candidate, but I don't know if it'll take over as well.
But here's the thing, like that's like a continuation of a series is one thing, but it's like
No, but-
nothing new.
Yeah.
People, no, but that it's exactly the same thing. People in their entertainment, whatever they enjoy, they want to see that repeated.
What is this guy's name from Ubisoft? I mean, this is ridiculous. I went to TCAF. They had like this whole indie developers thing, and it's like a conference. They explained to me that indie developers, they make new games. It takes them about a week.
So
it takes them a week to make any game, a playable game. Now the artwork, that'll need work.
What about
But
AAA titles?
AAA titles take like a couple years, but they explained that how their indie games end up becoming AAA titles is they spend years on getting the composers and the artwork up. You can make the basic game mechanics with like pixels for all you care.
I should have actually counted when I looked it up because the wiki page actually has some of the unique games, and I was actually looking at it. There was like 5 brand new.
No,
games.
there aren't many, but
they're not
in
published
large,
in large
but
scale, but they
the
exist.
thing is that's not because of
Yeah.
the console generations and everything
They
not allowing
they
for
make
it.
For every console, these
No, yeah.
indie developers are making for every console. It's just how
No,
long will it take?
No, but here's my issue.
Yeah.
What they're saying that you have all of these games and everything that are nothing but sequels in this console generation. How many of those games have been going by since the previous console generation?
I mean, even
This console generation has essentially been you really liked this on the original Xbox or on the PS2 or on the GameCube. let's give you more of that because you're going to pay for it.
And now HD remakes have become the fad, and there's more HD remakes happening. The Ratchet and Clank HD things are happening,
Yeah.
and they didn't include the fourth game, Deadlock, even though that is being remade HD.
Dragon Ball Z is having an HD remake.
Yeah,
for God's
Budokai
sakes.
I'm trying to
series.
fight it by saying Blaze Blue is a new game, but I understand that its predecessor is Guilty Gear, but it did start on.
But there's
the
a
new
lot of
system.
Blaze Blues.
It's all PS3.
Yeah, but here's the
And
thing,
then
there's a lot
Xbox.
of Blaze Blues.
It's Blaze Blue 1 and 2. That's it. And then
And there's like what is that,
Extend-
Quantum Shift, or
Continuum Shift is the name of the second game.
is it the same?
It is the name of the second.
But either way, that's still a sequel.
There's only one sequel for it so far. They have.
But
they
that's
have
still a sequel.
all the DLCs. If you download all of them, people consider it its own thing and call it Extend. But otherwise,
But that's
it's,
still a sequel.
yeah. But like it's still a new gen game is what I'm saying.
But it's still a sequel.
Of a new gen game. We're at the point
Yeah.
where we're starting to mix.
But
things up.
where's a new game? Where's
Kingdoms of Amalur. There's your new game. No, there you are. No, hold on.
Yeah.
Kingdoms of Amalur, there's your new game. You have a completely independent world that's created, characters that are not taken from anywhere.
Yeah.
And what happens? Because it's not it's gameplay that you've seen before, so you think it's boring. But it's no one that you care about, so you don't buy it.
But here's the reason, that actually failed for a different reason, and this is why a lot of games are going to be failing in the next little bit. I don't know why game publishers don't do this, and this is why James Cameron always makes a lot of money on his movies. He puts his movies during a time when the other blockbusters are not appearing, and there's a dead space.
Yeah.
I
And
heard
if they
that's a
put
great game.
Yeah, and if they put Kingdoms of Amalur not competing with Skyrim,
Yeah.
because that's essentially when it came out.
Yeah, that was it.
If they put it in like when was like a Dead Space last year?
Maybe a month before Skyrim.
Yeah, if they
came
put
out.
it maybe like same with Space Marine.
Yeah.
If they put Space Marine.
Because that came out around the same time that I think Gears of War 3 came out. There was another shooter that came out like right on its heels.
Yeah, like Gears of War 3 came out. I think you're right. Gears of War 3 came out the same time as Space Marine, or Space Marine the same time as Gears 3.
Yeah.
And that's their issue, because a lot of the times these new IPs, some of them fail, like 2 Human failed because the gameplay sucked.
I guess for me.
And they wanted it to be a trilogy.
I guess for me, like I'm part of that gamer demographic that really likes certain publishers. Like I really like Axis, I really like Atlas, both of them, and I keep track of their new releases, but not to the point where I keep track of all these other releases at the same time, because they generally tend to be like their own thing. Like the games that you guys have described are mostly like medieval RPGs and like FPS.
But here's the other thing, you have unique titles
Yeah.
from the Japanese era,
Yeah.
and then they start selling crap for some reason, and I don't understand it.
Okay.
Well, let me
okay.
let me choose my examples, and I'm talking
Okay.
about Suda51 and Shinji Mikami.
I have no idea what those are.
You never heard Shinji Mikami and Suda? You really?
No.
Suda51 are the people that did No More Heroes.
Oh, I didn't know their studio because I don't follow them.
Suda's it's actually Grasshopper Manufacturer.
Okay.
Suda's actually the guy.
Yeah.
And Shinji Mikami,
I've just got the game recently. I haven't played it yet.
Anyway, Suda did two of his. Suda's apparently they consider him the Enron because they don't understand how he's still in business because his games sell like 20,000 copies. His games, by the way, are Shadows of the Damned, which is a great game. Little flaws, but once again, I gotta look at its release date because I think it almost suffered from the same thing. And lack of marketability too.
But that just further
and
proves,
Lollipop Chainsaw, by the way.
all of this just further proves that what the Ubisoft CEO? No, not their CEO.
Yeah, the CEO.
The CEO. All of this continues to show exactly what the Ubisoft CEO is saying is false. He's saying that you need a new console generation to have creativity. You don't.
No, you don't.
I thought creativity.
The reason why these unique IPs failed is because of poor marketing decisions, or poor business practices, or just the way that people are.
Or just a bad release date. Like, I'm already expecting the Stick of Truth to fail because it's being released the same day as the Tomb Raider remake.
Creativity in psychology.
Considering how bad Tomb Raider games have been, I don't...
But it's the new one that's got all this hype.
Yeah, it's by Square Enix now. So
but you know how
they're
much...
restarting the whole
regardless of what... We don't know how good either of these games games are going to be.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Dark of Truth is going to be amazing.
But,
But
No bias.
But the thing is, like, the Tomb Raider's gotten way more hype. You know it's gonna sell, regardless of how good it is initially.
in terms
It's
of
just because of its title.
in terms of like creativity and psychology, creativity is basically being able to reorganize what you have in such a way that it's a unique iteration of what you have at hand. The fact that he's claiming that you need a whole new console to have better games is already showing a lack of creativity on his part, because he cannot work with the tools that he's been given to make something interesting out of it.
James Bond games, from GoldenEye on the N64
Oh, I love that game.
into I think it was the
Which,
GoldenEye
by the way,
re-release on the Wii. No, onto its re-release onto the Wii.
They're also doing an HD collection, I believe.
They're doing an HD collection, and then you had other 007 games.
I don't mind that, because my N64 doesn't.
Quantum of
it's not
Solace,
mine.
all of that. No, but the thing is, Quantum of Solace and all of that.
Oh
these
my gosh.
These are the same. These are the same IP across whole generations that actually added almost nothing to their gameplay, but people continue to buy because they're fans of GoldenEye. They enjoy those types of games, and they want to play more of those
Here's
games.
the thing. I was gonna use this as an example, and I just realized this. I think what he was trying to say is that the reason why we'll be getting new IPs is because the publishers will be pressured to give new IPs to make the console successful. And I'll give you my example, and my example is the 3DS. Think about that thing's first 6 months of life after it was forced to take an $80 price cut, and what games came out. What new IPs, and how many re-releases came out for that game.
Where is my Monster Hunter 4?
The two biggest games that came out for that were the Star Fox 64 3D and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D.
Oh, and Love Plus.
And how big did that console fail before they did an $80
just
price cut?
Actually, it comes exactly what I'm saying is it comes down to exactly what Kingdoms of Amalur and its release date were. You, as a person who enjoys medieval RPGs with magic and swords, are you going to go to Skyrim, which comes from a well-established publishing group that has a lot of history with the Elder Scrolls, games that you've probably played before, so you know what world it's in, so you have a general idea of what the attitude is, or some new thing called Kingdoms of Amalur? What are you going to go with? Something that you know is guaranteed to entertain you, or something that's new that might be risky and might actually be better. You don't know.
Also, the reviews on it are completely different, and the reviews do unfortunately help skew your opinion when you see that.
They will.
Thing Skyrim, I think, got usually at Metacritic 85 to 890. And then Kingdoms of Amalur Metacritic 7 to 75.
Yeah.
I remember something kind of odd. You mentioned that the 3DS took a price drop, right?
Yeah, after 6 months of its life.
However, I heard the price drop was because of a different reason. Because they announced the 3DS XL.
They only just now announced the 3DS XL. 6 months after the thing came out, it went from $250 to $130 because they had no games for it. And Ubisoft specifically canceled the Assassin's Creed game that they were going to make for it.
So
they actually lost 3 big game titles. And they had to make it $139, and then it finally sold when people realized it was cheap enough.
This is kind of on a weird concept, but Nintendo is slowly buying out. I forget if it's Tecmo or Koei, but the company that is behind Fatal Frame and the company that is behind the Samurai Warriors, not Sengoku Basara, but the other game that has Nobunaga, and they've merged and created Pokemon Conquest, aka Pokemon Nobunaga's Ambition in Japan is what it's called. But this game shows that instead of letting that Nobunaga's Ambition series of games die off completely, they've created something new by reorganizing what they already have. Pokemon, Nobunaga, and then they created a completely different gameplay. It's not the Pokemon game, and it's not Nobunaga's running around hack and slash. It's a tactic.
That's fine when you said new gameplay. If it was the same gameplay, I'd be like, that's still
it's
a remake.
completely different gameplay. And your Pokemon they evolve per se, but not in the mechanic is not in the way that you would expect.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It just
This
it
is
gets
something. Yeah.
it just gets a little tiring when it's you
Yeah.
know the same game.
It
same
gets
gameplay.
well, it gets tiring and everything, but I think the point that I think all three of us will agree to is it's not for the reason that the
No.
Ubisoft guys.
The reason why we're not getting enough creativity is because people just want to use recognition. This is why, even in movies, this is why certain movies happen, like the Star Trek movie, even though that was a good movie, that is nothing like the original series.
People
No,
are
and,
it's
and
nothing
you had
like-
completely crap Star Trek movies that only made a profit because of the Star Trek name.
And that's why I just mentioned Tomb Raider, the sequel, is going to easily do better than South Park, The Stick of Truth, because that's a brand of game that's more recognizable. Even though South Park is still a brand, it's still not... In the gaming market, it's still not as big as Tomb Raider.
You played Halo 4, and you said it's just Halo.
Yeah.
But it's still going to sell
that game's
like
gonna sell.
hotcakes.
That the game's gonna sell a few million copies easy.
What it sounds like is the people at Ubisoft are afraid to take risks. That's
Actually,
all.
surprisingly enough, they are one of the few companies that are releasing a new IP, Watch Dogs, and they've actually released not new IPs, but sometimes new games,
Honestly, I think
like Deus Ex.
I think it's less about them not willing to take risks and them
more-
being
yeah.
pissed off that their risks aren't paying off as they should be.
Well,
And trying to find
well,
an
like I
excuse
said,
for it.
there are so many games, and that's the biggest issue with like gamers right now. It's like they don't want to play good games because they apparently don't have a mode. Like the reason why Vanquish did not sell is because there was no multiplayer for being a third-person game, and that game only has about a 7-hour campaign, no multiplayer, but that is one of the most fun experiences you'll ever have.
You mean like I had no idea.
You may not agree, but that thing's worth the full $60 price.
I didn't even realize Journey was multiplayer. I was just like, hey, there's a guy on my screen. Do I follow
Oh
him?
yeah, that
I didn't know. Like there's some moments where I'm like, there's a multiplayer in this
See-
game. I thought this was just a lousy AI that kept walking into walls.
Nope, that's another player. Journey's
That's just a lousy player just running into walls.
Journey deserves its own discussion on another day once I get everyone here who's played it.
Fair enough.
But anyways, that's essentially
Yeah.
what the thing is, and that happens with a lot of Shinji Mikami games and
Yeah.
Suda 51 games. Lollipop Chainsaw being the newest one.
Which
I
is,
want all the costumes, guys.
Hey,
Because
the game is actually
No,
like
it's fucking
it's Tales of Grace's game. I want all
Yeah.
your costumes. You claim that it's DLC only in Japan, but it's like free over there, and
Well,
it's